It's highly recommendable. Perfect. Thank you very much, Elias and Rafael, for this contribution. And now we'll start with the next presentation, which is entitled Accessibility Technologies for the Digital Classroom, Current Needs, Solutions and Challenges for the Future. And this speech will be given by our colleague Mario del Torre Carrio.
Mr. Mario Carrio Diaz. Good evening. I'm going to try and be brief, since Elias has taken up so much time because it's too hot to stay around for too long. I'm Mario Carrio. I'm a member of the Accedo group, and I'm about to briefly explain what the group is working on. It's basically the accessibility of the educational contents for especially children's education, primary education, secondary education, and then for upper education we have other kinds of contents, and much has been explained about upper education at university level. We are mainly focusing on these first stages. Why was a group created? Well, during the 20th century, the educational model was the one that we all had, with a blackboard, piece of chalk, taking notes, textbooks, etc. At the beginning of this decade, a shift in this educational method occurred with the introduction of new technologies, CITs, ICTs. Students were supposed to start using computers in the rooms, in the school rooms. We started finding digital blackboards that were connected to a computer. And as a result of all this, we at the ONCE Foundation had already all these problems solved, because children with visual disability, we would ask them, what books do you need? And these are the books that you need. We transcribe them into Braille. You can go to the classroom, you make your notes in Braille. If you need a drawing, we can adapt this and create a relief. So everything was going well. But what happened with this change? Well, suddenly we realized that when our children need to start using a computer, what are they going to do? We realized that the biggest problem was not the computer, which is a bit of a problem, but the biggest problem was the activities or the contents that were being introduced in the platforms of the time. For example, the theorem of Pythagoras, where you have paint different drawings that a blind child cannot see. So that in 2005, the ONCE Foundation created the Accedo, which means accessibility to educational contents. And the main objectives of the group are research, because, as I say, we were not familiar with that. So first thing we needed to do is research to see how we could face up to this challenge. And once that you know a little bit, but in 5 or 6 years we know a little bit, so we act as consultants with the different stakeholders which are linked to educational context. The companies that develop the educational context, designer, software developers, and the very teachers themselves. Because the idea is that when all these technologies are introduced in the classroom, thanks to the crisis, this is not happening as fast as necessary, so that our children have equal conditions as the rest. One of our work is about awareness raising, because everybody thinks that it's a good idea to have blind people with the other students. But of course, how can you teach them to use a computer? And then the other thing that we work on is training. We try to organize courses for developers, teachers, contents, developers, etc. So what is the problem that students with visual disability have in the classroom? Well, on the one hand, they have the problem to access the devices. This is not such a serious problem, because through support, tools, access to the computer itself is not much of a problem. However, the biggest problem is accessing the educational applications. And that is the weakest point, because no matter how many devices or no matter how many tools or screen reviewers, no matter how many tools, if the applications themselves, if the applications developed by the publishing companies, Ministry of Education, and in the different autonomous communities are not accessible, no matter what your tools, the blind child will be excluded. What software tools do we use? We have, what hardware do we use? We have the digital tablet, digitalizing tablet, which is something which exists already. Graphic designers have been using this for a long time. So how can this help us if the educational application that the child is working with fulfills a number of accessibility requirements? What we can do is transfer whatever is in the screen to a sheet in relief, which we place on the tablet, so that